Good night, everyone. Today we will be reviewing, or I will be reviewing, you'll be watching, hopefully, the Starfruit. Now, I've held it up like this to show you a impressive visual effect here, because looking at it like this, I mean, it looks a bit strange, you know, but not anything special. But when we turn it like this, you can see where it gets its impressive name from. I think, I've never seen it actually called this, but I believe it's also known as a carambola. It's grown usually in Southeast Asia. That may be what they call it there, but to you and me, to any instance I've ever seen it, this is the starfruit. And I've got a little cross section here so you can see. Isn't that lovely? Very pretty. Nothing on earth like it. And it's not necessarily 5 points at all times, but it usually is. Now this is quite yellow, and you can see the brown bits along the edges indicating that it is overripe. It's gone beyond ripeness, but that just means it's going to have a lot of flavor. Usually it starts out green, it turns to a sort of gold color as it gets to ripeness. Now it's kind of odd, because when you pick one up, if you have the good fortune to, you'll notice that it has quite waxy skin. And you might think to yourself, well, how am I supposed to eat this? Because it's got this waxy skin, but how am I supposed to peel this? Because it's such a bizarre shape. Well, the good news is you don't have to, because the whole starfruit is edible just by itself. You typically cut it into slices and just go ahead like that. Now, this will probably be a pretty short review. I don't really have that much to say about it, but interestingly, I have had a starfruit before. Many years ago when I was just a young boy in primary school. It would have been about grade 6 or 7. We of course had to do a LOTE class, which is language other than English, and I don't know what was happening at the school at that time, but they were just cycling through teachers like crazy. I think we did some Italian in one term, and then the next term we did French, and then one term we might have done German. I can't even remember. But one term they got us to do Indonesian, which is not something I've ever seen taught at any other school as a alternative language. But I guess they figured, not that really spending a whole year or multiple years even just herding kids into a class 1 hour out of the week and trying to teach them a language is going to pick it up fluently. But especially in this case, when we were just being cycled through languages like crazy, I guess they figured, or at least I don't even know if the guy spoke Indonesian, to be honest with you. I don't think he was Indonesian. I think he was the woodworking teacher or something. But I guess they figured, there's no chance these kids are going to pick up Indonesian, so I think they taught us to count in Indonesian, which I don't remember at all, but they just brought in a bunch of stuff. I think they brought in a durian, and they brought in some starfruit, and just said, well, this is what they've got in Indonesia. Eat some, and maybe you'll pick up something about Indonesia. I don't know. And that was that was our lesson, our brief lesson in Indonesia. But that was many years ago, over a decade ago. So I don't really remember what starfruit tastes like at all. But it is very vibrant, very unique. You don't see anything like this. It's when you go out to the market and you might see a starfruit, you might just feel compelled to just buy it on the spot because of its vibrant, unique quality and the chance that you might never ever see a starfruit ever again. I mean, does it not glow with glorious incandescence, referencing just the name itself? It needs full sun exposure to grow. And of course, being a starfruit, you'd expect nothing less. So we're gonna go ahead and just bite straight into it. I don't know if you can see here, but if I turn it this way, it does actually have seeds in, but the seeds are perfectly edible. There's nothing wrong with them. So we're just gonna go ahead. I mean, that's typically the way you'd eat a starfruit, into thin slices, because it's very, it's a lovely shape, but it's very difficult to sort of maneuver. But I'm going to give it a go, and I'm just going to go straight in here. Wow, don't recommend that at all. I don't know if you could see, but I could not eat the starfruit very well. And the thing about starfruit is they are exceptionally juicy, so I've made a bit of a mess here, but that's alright. Very very interesting, you know, it's quite, the texture is almost like an apple, but I would say closer to a sort of nashi or an Asian pear, more light, not as firm, and a lot of juice in there, lots and lots of juice, but it's almost similar to an apple, maybe mixed in with a bit of grape. I don't know, it's a bit tart underneath as well. Really, I find difficulty with these fruit and vegetable reviews, because it's like, you know, if I eat a lettuce, it's very difficult for me to explain how a lettuce tastes like without saying it tastes like lettuce, you know. It's one of those things on like defining something without using the definition, because lettuce is such a, well, taste is so taste generally is so fundamental, and that it's at a level where it's very difficult to describe and articulate, but very pleasant experience. Now, starfruit, it's like most fruits, very high in vitamin C. It's got, people say starfruit has a high potassium content. That's not really true, especially not compared to like bananas or spinach or something like that. But they're very, very light, very low in calories, you know, very, very juicy. But like, you know, most of that juice is just water content, you know, so very juicy, but very, very sweet, a little bit of tartness, very light. It's one of those things that I don't know if I'd recommend like eating every day, you know, because it's really got something you need nutritionally. It's really going to benefit you. There are definite health benefits, at least in certain circumstances, to eating starfruit, and I think to eating grapefruit. They both have like similar health benefits when taken with medication for high cholesterol and stuff like that. But you know, that's hopefully not most of us, so we don't really have to worry about that. Starfruit, as I was saying, is not something I really would think about, hey, I want to eat this every day, you know. It's gonna make my body feel $1,000,000, but it is really lovely, like as a treat, you know. If you perhaps like live in Southeast Asia or close by, you might be lucky enough to get a source of starfruit that isn't too expensive, because it's so exotic, you know. Us, well, myself at least, people living in the West, it might be just out of their price range, you know. You go to the market and it's going to be more expensive than apples or grapes or something grown domestically, let's say, because it's so exotic. It's just a sort of novelty that's sold. But it is good. I kind of view it as like almost like a mandarin, you know. You don't get that much nutrition out of it, but it is beautiful, light, sweet, and it is a treat to just to have in your hands, to cut open, you know, because there's nothing else in the same shape. There's no other fruit like it. It's a unique experience that you won't forget, you know. Everybody, after their first apple, we've eaten so many, they all look the same, you know. They all just turn into an apple-shaped blur, but your starfruit is just so lovely that really, if you have the opportunity, don't pass it up. All that combined, I don't know, I'm gonna have to give keeping in mind what I just said about starfruit being just sort of a snack, you know, just sort of a treat, something you give yourself, not because it has or will confer any sort of amazing benefit, but because it's something new, it's nice, it's light, it's flavorful. Not necessarily something that's taken for health reasons, let's say. But keeping all that in mind, I'm feeling, let's go with a 7.84, I think. That's been the whole review. Hopefully kept it quite short. I think dragon fruit will be the next one. Continuing on our our tropic trend here. I'll see you then.